The letter was almost certainly fake. Britain treated it as real. 4 days later, the country voted. On the 25th of October 1924, the Daily Mail published what it called a secret order from Moscow. The document appeared to come from Grigory Zinoviev, head of the Communist International. It told British communists to intensify their revolutionary work. It called for propaganda inside Britain's armed forces. And it suggested that the Labour government was helping Moscow prepare the ground. That was the public story. A foreign plot had been exposed. Labour had been compromised. Britain was in danger, but one detail should have stopped everything. The original letter had never been found. British intelligence possessed only a copy. Its source could not be securely verified. Yet the document was circulated with an extraordinary assurance. Its authenticity was described as undoubted. That is the file that does not fit. Because the British state expressed certainty before it had proof. And someone made sure that certainty reached the newspapers. The alleged letter was dated the 15th of September 1924. It was addressed to the Communist Party of Great Britain. Its supposed author was Grigory Zinoviev. Zinoviev led the Communist International, known as the Comintern. Its purpose was to encourage communist revolution beyond Russia, so the name carried weight. The content also sounded believable. The Comintern did communicate with foreign communist parties. It did promote revolutionary propaganda. Soviet espionage and political interference were real concerns. That made the letter plausible. But plausible is not authentic. British intelligence never received the original. It received a copied text through an intelligence source. There was no original paper to examine, no confirmed signature, no secure chain of custody, no direct route back to Zinoviev. Despite that, the Secret Intelligence Service forwarded copies through Whitehall. The Foreign Office received one. So did the Security Service. Scotland Yard and the armed services were alerted. The letter moved quickly. The verification did not. That assurance came from the Secret Intelligence Service. It transformed the document. Before that sentence, it was an intelligence report. After that sentence, it looked like established fact. But the assurance was stronger than the evidence. The original had not been examined. The source had not been independently confirmed. And later investigations could not reconstruct a secure route from Moscow to London. The state had placed certainty on top of uncertainty. A fake document in a drawer is only paper. A fake document inside government becomes a problem. A fake document in the press becomes a weapon. The letter arrived at the perfect moment. Britain had elected its first Labour government in January 1924. Ramsay MacDonald served as both Prime Minister and Foreign Secretary. His government was fragile. Labour did not hold a parliamentary majority. It depended on Liberal support. MacDonald also wanted better relations with Soviet Russia. His government negotiated 2 Anglo-Soviet treaties. The aim was trade, debt settlement, and a more stable relationship. To Labour, this was diplomacy. To its opponents, it looked dangerously close to Moscow. Then came the Campbell case. J.R. Campbell edited a communist newspaper. He published an article directed at members of the armed forces. The government began a prosecution, then dropped it. Conservatives and liberals accused Labour of protecting a communist agitator. The government lost a confidence vote. A general election was called for the 29th of October. The government had already fallen. Labour was already being accused of communist sympathies. The Zinoviev letter did not create that suspicion. It arrived carrying apparent proof. By the time officials examined it, Britain was prepared to believe it. The question was no longer whether it fitted the mood. The question was whether anyone would test the evidence. The document reached the Secret Intelligence Service in early October. One of the central figures in its handling was Desmond Morton. Morton was an experienced intelligence officer. He passed the letter's contents into the Foreign Office system. At the top of that system was Sir Eyre Crowe, the senior permanent official at the Foreign Office. Crowe accepted the intelligence assurance. An official protest was prepared for the Soviet representative in London. That decision mattered. The government was no longer merely investigating the letter. It was acting on it. MacDonald was placed in an impossible position. As Prime Minister, he was fighting an election. As Foreign Secretary, his own department was telling him the document was genuine. Rejecting it meant challenging his officials and intelligence services. Accepting it meant allowing a document damaging his party to stand. He demanded further evidence, but the machinery had already started moving. The Foreign Office protest gave the letter official weight. Then someone leaked it. On the 25th of October, the Daily Mail published the letter. 4 days remained before polling. The paper described a Bolshevik plan to undermine Britain's army and navy. Labour was presented not merely as mistaken, it was presented as vulnerable to foreign control. The timing was devastating. This was not a leaked document appearing during a quiet month. It appeared during the final weekend of a general election. The source of the leak was never proved conclusively, but the document was already circulating through official and intelligence networks. People connected to those networks also had links with politicians and the press. The letter did not simply emerge from nowhere. Someone moved it into public view. The exact person remains uncertain. The political effect does not. Labour was forced to defend itself against a document carrying the weight of government authority. After the election, 2 cabinet committees examined the letter. The new Conservative government announced that it had no doubt about its authenticity. But the evidential foundation had not improved. There was still no original, still no verified author, still no secure chain from Moscow. The conclusion was stronger than the evidence supporting it. That is the central contradiction. The government said there was no doubt. The file contained reasons to doubt almost everything. Zinoviev denied writing it. The Communist Party of Great Britain denied receiving it. A trades union Congress delegation investigated in Moscow. It concluded that the document was forged. Even within British intelligence, confidence began to fracture. Yet the public judgment remained. Authentic, official, settled. The conclusion survived because reversing it would have exposed the original failure. Officials had acted. The Foreign Office had protested. The press had published. The election had passed. Admitting uncertainty afterwards could not retrieve the headline. The Conservatives won a landslide. Stanley Baldwin returned as Prime Minister. Labour lost parliamentary seats. The Liberals suffered a collapse. But the popular version is too neat. The letter did not bring down the Labour government. The government had already lost its confidence vote. The election had already been called. The Conservatives were already recovering. And Labour received more votes than it had in 1923. The letter cannot explain the result on its own. Its effect cannot be measured precisely. But that does not make it harmless. It helped define Labour as unpatriotic. It turned diplomacy into evidence of submission. It gave existing fears a document. And it reduced the election to 4 words. Labour, Moscow, revolution, danger. The letter may not have changed every vote. It changed the atmosphere in which those votes were cast. The case never disappeared. Labour supporters suspected political interference. Intelligence officers were accused of helping the letter into public life. Possible forgers were proposed. Possible leakers were named. But no complete chain was ever proved. In the late 1990s, Foreign Secretary Robin Cook ordered a new official examination. Foreign Office historian Gil Bennett studied government files, intelligence material, and records connected to Russia. Her conclusion was careful. The letter was almost certainly a forgery. Its journey into British politics was shaped by people already hostile to Labour and Soviet relations. But the surviving evidence did not reveal one complete conspiracy. There was no single order, no meeting where every participant agreed on a plan, no final document naming both the forger and the leaker. That does not clear the system. It explains the failure. Some officials believed the letter. Some wanted it to be true. Some regarded Labour as a security risk. Others simply trusted the assurance placed in front of them. The result did not require one mastermind. It required a chain of people who failed to stop it. What can be proved? British intelligence received a copy of the alleged letter. The original was never found. Its source was not securely established. The letter was circulated as authentic. The Foreign Office acted on it. Someone leaked it to the press. And it was published 4 days before an election. The letter was almost certainly forged. What cannot be proved? Who wrote it? Who authorized the leak? Whether every official involved understood the doubts? Or how many votes it changed? But the absence of a perfect conspiracy does not remove the failure. The failure began earlier. It began when an intelligence service confused plausibility with proof. It continued when the Foreign Office acted before verification. And it became political interference when the document reached the press. The Zinoviev Letter survived because it was useful. It confirmed what Labour's opponents already believed. It frightened readers. It sold newspapers. And it turned uncertainty into a weapon. A lie does not always arrive wearing a disguise. Sometimes it arrives inside a government file. Sometimes an official stamps certainty across it. And sometimes a country votes before anyone checks the original. In this case, there was no original to check. Only a copy, a missing route, and one official assurance the evidence could never support. That is the file that does not fit.